Okay, it is saying, it's indicating that we're live on the Video Pro, and I'm going to go into my broadcast here and just make sure that everything's copacetic. And we are early. This is a pregame show coming in. Hugo says he's in the house, and let me see what we got. Okay, it is saying, it's indicating that okay, the audio sounds good, so we don't have to restart. That's always a good thing. And so this is going to be a continuation of a little bit of crazy talk. The last two crazy talk shows we had, people asked for more, believe it or not. They asked for more crazy talk. Well, that's what they're going to get today. But before I get into that, I used the timeless razor to shave. I love this freaking razor, the stainless steel timeless razor made in these United States. Search timeless razor. But I have to say, so, you get some good advice on the forums, and then some advice you get is not so good. So the advice that these are great, these timeless razors, that was spot on. This is just you buy it, it'll last generations. It's just super well made, built like a tank, nice solid. I mean, just can't say enough about that. But then the Astra blades were recommended. A lot of people like the Astra blades. I think they're made in Russia, believe it or not. I get little cuts with them, and I don't have that problem with the Vikings blades. So I'm going to go back to the Vikings blades. These are made in the United States of America, and the Astras were less money, but I consistently get little tiny cuts with them. Not every time I shave, but probably half the time. And so I have to blame it on these because I didn't have the problem with the Vikings. So I'm going to go back to the Vikings and see what happens with all that. So that's a little bit off topic, but it is kind of illustrating that you can't believe all the advice you get on the forums and in the Facebook groups and so forth. Hugo says, from Portland, Oregon, at work selling cars, wearing my Rolex Submariner date. There you go. Well, that's a well-known car salesman watch. Absolutely, you can close some deals with that on your wrist. No problem at all there. You're putting that watch to use, using it as a revenue generator. Back in the day, I did the same thing. I wore steel Rolexes from time to time, GMTs, but generally I was wearing a day date when I was selling, and it worked real well. I dressed nice, wore day date, and everything worked out okay there. So, but we're going to talk about watches. We'll talk about some other options. There's the GMT Stunner, and we're coming up on 6 minutes. Another 30 seconds or so will be 6 minutes before the hour, and so this is a little bit of a pregame show. The show was scheduled to start at 4 o'clock Eastern time in these United States. And so we're going to kind of coast along here a little bit until 4. But this is a little bit of a pregame show. And by the way, this brush that I also used for shaving was recommended in some of the Facebook groups. And that's a home run. I highly recommend these brushes. This is made by Wild West Brushworks, and it does not shed. The other one I had was shedding like crazy, the badger hairs or whatever these are, and this one does not shed, and it's just super comfortable for putting the soap on. So highly recommend them. Carlos is in the house. Jason's in the house. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Craig, what's the measurement of your wrist? Okay, so my wrist is anywhere from 7.25 inches to 7.5 inches, depending on the time of the year and how humid and hot it is and things like that. This time of the year, it's more up towards the 7.5 inch size, but anywhere between 7.25 inches and 7.5 is where my wrist falls most of the time. That watch is sized really for me to wear it during the winter months. It's a little bit snug if I wear it in the summer like now, but it's specifically sized to be worn in the cooler months when I'll be wearing long sleeves and I'll need a more trim watch like that to go underneath the shirt cuffs. This one will not do that duty, at least for me. This one's a little bit too bulky to fit comfortably underneath a shirt cuff. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all these issues with these watches. And let's see, DA Machine 3's in the house. He's on a flight. Wow. Okay. And Jason's in the house. Thank you. My wife is laughing now. Uh-oh. All right, so here's the deal, folks. I went on one of the Facebook groups yesterday, and somebody was talking about selling some sport watches, whether or not he should buy a particular, excuse me, whether or not he should buy a particular sport watch to resell it, and if it was a good buy and what the market's like and so on and so forth. And I said, I would really buy the watch if you want it, because you might end up getting stuck with it, because the market, there's some indicators that the market is starting to soften a little bit. And here's the deal. When the bottom falls out of the steel sport watch market, the Rolex steel sport watch market, and some of the other models as well, some of the other manufacturers, when the bottom falls out of that overheated steel market, where steel watches are selling for significantly more than $10,000, I mean, that's insane by any measure, right? I mean, I know I'm an old-fashioned guy, but more than $10,000 for a steel watch is pretty insane. And that is there's going to be a comeuppance. There's going to be an adjustment. And you're going to see people that paid a lot of money for Daytonas, a lot of money for GMT Pepsi, GMT Batman. You're going to see a lot of people left holding the bag with watches that they paid way too much money for. That's my prediction. So I chimed in that there's some potential issues with paying a lot of money for these watches. So let's look at, and I'm going to go into some options, some competitive options, as Nothing Fancy would say. And we're going to talk about where you might want to spend your money as opposed to paying a whole lot of money for a steel watch. Now, see, this watch right here, you can buy for around $3,000. $3,200 is the list price. Okay, that's a steel watch. Of course, it's the 9F quartz movement, the Grand Seiko 9F movement, which is fantastic. So, of course, it's more affordable, right? But to me, spending about $3,000, maybe spending $5,000, maybe spending $6,000 for a steel watch, okay, that's in the realm of a realistic price range for a high-quality watch. But when you start talking over $10,000, I think it's time to start looking at some options. So let's do that real quick here. I know we're still in the pregame show here, still a couple minutes before 4, but let's look at some competitive options here. All right, so first off, we have the Rolex 1991, a Rolex Yachtmaster in 18 karat gold. Now, let me know, folks, this is the 16628. If anybody is familiar with this watch in the chat, if you could let me know if this has solid center links for those links in the bracelet. I'm not sure when they transitioned over to solid center links, if you had to go to the 6-digit one. But you can see in that picture right there, it has the old style clasp, the stamped clasp with the micro adjustments. I actually like those clasps. Again, crazy talk here today. Crazy talk on the channel, but I actually like those clasps. I wore watches with those clasps for years, and they work great. It's real easy to adjust the bracelet, and they're comfortable. They're not overly thick on the wrist. They fit nicely to the wrist, and they just work. They just get the job done. So, and I also like a hold case, to tell you the truth. I like the holes in the case. This is a very trim case. I believe that watch is 11.7 mils thick. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong on that. And so, yes, we're stepping up. We're spending more than $10,000, but we're getting a solid 18 karat gold watch, folks. We're getting a solid 18 karat gold stunner that has a beautiful case design on it. It doesn't have the ugly super case. And some guy chimed in when I made a comment on the super case. Some guy chimed in. This is funny. This was a good one, okay? So he chimes in And he says the reason they put all that extra metal on the lugs in the super case, they made them real fat like that, is so that you can polish them down a whole bunch of times, right? You can take it and have it serviced, and they can polish it aggressively, right? And those lugs will slowly trim up, right? And I'm like, you mean I'm going to pay top dollar for a brand new watch and wait 5 or 10 years, and then when I have it serviced, have them aggressively polished it, and then wait another 5 or 10 years and have them aggressively polish it again, and maybe by then the lugs will start looking decent? I've got to suffer through decades of time with this ugly super case on the hopes that at some point somebody will aggressively polish it down to where it looks good. I mean, that was a pretty... I mean, that caught me off guard, that one. I mean, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? Are these people serious about this? This is Crazy Talk today. Crazy Talk on the channel today. We're going to polish this puppy down, man. If it takes 3 or 4 services to get this thing looking good, we're going to have them aggressively. We're going to have them put this Rolex on a grinder, for gosh sakes. We'll get it looking good if it's the last thing we do. All right, so anyway, I digress. All right, so we got a super chat here. I'll get to that in a second here. I like my Persol Aviator, but I do not use sunglasses often. Okay, so we got a conversation going on about sunglasses and stuff. Okay, that's good. Even the Explorer 1 and 2s are ridiculously priced right now. What makes, okay, yeah, they've gotten more expensive. But I'm going to show you an Explorer here in a moment that's available. We're going to talk about an Explorer. Let's see, I have 3 pairs of Maui Jim, 1 pair in my personal bag. Okay, we're still talking sunglasses. That's good. That's good. I like you guys having conversations in the chat. That's why we're here. Voice to text screwed up, but I think you get the point. Okay, well, yeah, we'll try to get the point. What do you think of NTH Watches micro brand? Let's check it out. Let's see if we can check this out. By the way, Steve is having a show, I believe, on Tuesday. Steve from Little Treasury Jewelers. And, you know, he has about 20 micro brands that he represents. So definitely, check out his show. And I'm trying to bring up their website here for these watches. I'm on their website and I'm trying to find their watches, and they've got all kinds of stuff about the people, but okay, here we go, watches. All right, so let's see what we got here. Well, you know, right off the top of my head, they don't look hateful. I mean, the one with the Mercedes hands there, the third and fourth one, $650. I'm just not aware of the quality on these, the overall quality, but I like the hold cases. I like the case design. It looks like, you know, more like the older non-super cases. Maybe some folks can chime in the chat. This one here, that looks like it would be very legible with those hands and all. That particular model with the blue dial, the one with the black dial next to it, they all look like they might be very legible. And, you know, I'm just not familiar with the quality on these. But I would definitely highly recommend you get in touch with Steve and talk to him about these watches, because he keeps up on a lot of the micro brands and he might know more about these. Steve at Little Treasury. There is a link in the description of this video to his website, littletreasury.com. And like I say, he'll be broadcasting live on the channel here, I think on Tuesday, but soon. It's coming up. It's already scheduled. So I would talk to him, but off the top of my head, Hugo, I looked at these and they look fairly decent. So, but I don't know what movements are in them. I don't know enough about them to really, I don't like to comment on the quality of a watch until I've actually had it in my hands and played with it and worn it for a while and really know what it's like. Oh, let's see here. Somebody says, I just went to Seiko Boutique in New York City and tried on Seiko Spring Drive Diver Watch, and even though it's 44 millimeters, fits very well in a small wrist. Yeah, to each their own. Some people are going to find it a little bit big, but I find it very comfortable because of the titanium. I don't know if the one you tried on was the titanium version, the 231 titanium version, but that helps a lot with the comfort. It's significantly lighter weight. So, let's see. What's the measurement of yours? I would like to try to get one. Okay. I can't, let's see. I can't tell a close friend wearing Yacht Master, but I never touched it or talked in depth about it. What I can say is that it has it for at least 10 years, wearing it a lot, and it looks great. And that's a gold, yeah, yellow gold, he says. Okay, Carlos says. Good, well, good report from Carlos. I think it's a stunning watch. We'll talk a little bit more about those watches here in a minute, these options, these what I call competitive options. Options to spending a whole bunch of money, more than $10,000 for a steel sport watch. I mean, steel is not a luxury material, folks. I mean, this titanium is a much better material than stainless steel. This particular grade of titanium that Grand Seiko uses. I mean, this is a big step up from the 904L stainless steel. Stainless steel is just stainless steel, folks. It's not a big deal. So we should not be paying a ton of money for a steel watch, in my opinion. And Jason says, I'm definitely going towards a GS, just deciding on which model. There you go. And there's a stunner right there. Absolutely. And that one, depending on the lighting, see the dial looks real black there. In certain light, the blue comes out. Really gorgeous. I'll share a picture here in a little while of how stunning that can look in the light. The 005 model. The SPGA 029 fits me better than a 41 millimeter snowflake. Interesting. Interesting. Craig was a huge influence. Oh, well, there we go, James. Sorry about that. Okay, but maybe I'm trying to provide information that's helpful, and that's if that is good, then that's a good thing. And our Wags is in the house. Okay. Our Wags, maybe you can comment. What do you think about that company BlockFi? BlockFi, BLOCKFI. Do you think the folks behind it, do you think it's an organization that can be trusted? And we're going to talk a little bit later about Bitcoin. It's been pumping here recently. Let's see what it's at right now. See if we can bring up the Coinbase trading window here. Okay, so we are at $10,840. $10,840. Wow. All I can say is wow. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was talking to Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister. We had an interview. It's up on my channel. Actually, my dad interviewed him, but I was talking to him before that interview, and they even talked about a little bit during the interview. We were speculating at that time. I think Bitcoin was around $1,200, $1,300, something like that, and we were speculating as to whether or not it would hit $5,000 in 2020. By 2020, we were saying, well, do you think it'll hit $5,000? And we're like, oh, I don't know, it's a lot of money. Remember, it was $1,250 or whatever at the time. And then, now we're sitting at 10,000. I'm like, I'm just shaking my head. I just can't believe it is this high. But here's the thing. People have routinely over the years said, oh, no, it's way too high. I'm not going to buy it now. I remember when it first hit $1,000. And people were like, oh, my God, it's $1,000. I'm not going to buy it now. It's way too high, right? And then it hit like $5,000. Oh, no, it's way too high. And, people were saying that the same thing back when it hit $30. It had a big run up to $30, and people were saying the same thing. Oh, my gosh, $30, right? So, I mean, at some point, you have to think, maybe I should not be a no-coiner. Maybe I should have at least one Bitcoin in my back pocket somewhere. Not financial advice here, but at some point you might get the message that you're kind of being left behind. Let's see here. Let's see. Get caught up on these comments. I'm looking at the SBGE 211, SBGN 005, and the SBGA 231. Wow, you're looking at some beauties. Looking at some beauties there. Just look at them all. Just try them on. Make sure you go to an AD that has them in stock and really measure 7 times and cut once and buy the watch that you really like. I love it. I have a couple of them, super thin sapphire crystal. You'll go in the house. I'm not sure which watch he was talking about there. 9F quartz or spring drive. Well, see here, the advantage to a 9F watch like that one right there, there are a couple of advantages. One, they're going to tend to be thinner. They can make the case thinner. Okay. Number two, it's insanely accurate. Now, the spring drive is pretty insanely accurate too, but this one just takes it to a whole nother level. Number three, servicing costs are basically non-existent. Every 3 years you replace the battery in it, that's it. You don't have to worry about any big service bills, service costs. Now with the spring drive, you're probably going to go decades, 10, 20, maybe 30 years before you're going to have to service it also. But eventually, at some point, you may need to service it, and you're going to get hit with a $500 bill or whatever it is at the time to service that. So you're not going to get that with the 9F quartz. You're not going to ever have that thing serviced. It's designed to go 50 years without any servicing at all. So, I mean, you're going to be good to go. So, and the other advantage to the watch with the 9F is it can sit there for a week and not worry about it and just pick it up and put it on your wrist and go. You don't have to unscrew the crown, set the time, wind it, all that. Once a mechanically driven watch stops, when you want to wear it again, you've got to set the time. And that's kind of a hassle. So there are some advantages, clear advantages to the 9F, and of course it's less money as well. Needless to say, it is less money. So so that's the thing. Let's see. Get a spring drive. I feel quartz don't have soul. I don't know. The 9F has a pretty cool soul if you research it. Research the 9F movement. It is pretty freaking amazing. If I was going to only have one, if I didn't have both, well, here's the thing. It would depend on how I dressed all the time. If I always dressed casual, then I would go for the 231 every time. I'd go for this watch every time. If I have to wear a long sleeve shirt, a dress shirt, if this needs to go under a shirt cuff, then I've got to go with something thinner. I've got no choice. I've got to go with something thinner. So it really depends on the use case, what you're wearing the watch for, as to which would be the go-to one watch. Okay, so let's talk about some competitive options to spending too much money. Irix guy says the audio sounds good. Well, thank you. I'm glad it sounds good. That's out of respect to you guys that we do that we try to have decent audio. So we're going to talk about some competitive options to spending what I feel is too much money for a steel sport watch, for a steel Rolex. Let's look at some competitive options here. Give me a second here. All right. One is a watch that I owned for almost 20 years that is a stunning watch. It was a gorgeous watch. I enjoyed wearing that watch often for, like I say, about 19 years. Very comfortable on wrist. More comfortable in some ways than the newer ones because this does not have the center links are not solid in that bracelet. It makes it a little bit lighter weight. The clasp and all is a little bit lighter weight. The these watches do have the double quick set. So this is the 18231. So it's still a modern enough movement to where it'll get the job done. But you can buy them for substantially less money than the six-digit day date, the 118238, I guess it is. So the 18238 is in many ways a sweet spot for a day date. And if you get one in really good shape, which that one was, even after 19 years of regular use, and by the way, if you size it so it fits properly on your wrist, you're not going to get that bracelet stretch that you often see. If you keep it clean and don't wear it super loose on wrist, it's going to hold up pretty good. So if you get one in really good shape, you should be okay with that. So that's a competitive option, folks. You should be able to buy that watch for around 12 grand in really good condition, an 18238. Okay, around 12 grand. So there's one competitive option to spending too much money for a steel Rolex. Okay, and don't try to give me the argument that, oh, I don't like gold. No, 18 karat yellow gold Rolex is stunning, folks. Oh, I don't buy the watch for attention. I don't want people to notice my watch or whatever. Then buy a $1,000 watch. Why are you buying a Rolex in the first place? Oh, I want a really good watch. Well, you can get really good watches for $1,000. There's a ton of watches out there for $1,000 that are super good watches. So no, we buy Rolexes because we want something special. We want something, you know, that is going to look good on wrist and be something really interesting that we enjoy wearing and so on and so forth. And you can't beat an 18238 in my opinion. And of course, I am always correct. Okay, so let's go to another competitive option here. And this, we're going to get away just for a second from gold. And we're going to say, okay, you're hell-bent on getting a steel watch. Okay, so there's a 6-digit Explorer, a 2017 model, 2018 model, unused, the seller claims. Now, this one is not the one with the stumpy hands, right? This is the one with the full-length hands. And this is the one I would recommend. So that's going to be very legible. It's going to be very comfortable on wrist. It's a beautiful case design, much more attractive case than a super case. And by the way, the super case is a no-fly zone for me. I won't buy anything with a super case. It is ugly. So there you go. Sure, it's $7 grand, but go ahead and make an offer. But I just tried to pick a really nice one. This is original box and papers, unworn. Okay? So I think that would be a definite option. It's the 39 mil, so it's a more modern, bigger size. I like the 36 mil as well, but if you want something to kind of compete with a sport watch, like a sub or something like that. And here's the thing, this is going to actually be more readable and more usable in many ways than a sub or a GMT because the dial is actually larger on this. Even though it's a 39 mil watch, the dial is actually larger because the bezel is smaller. And so if you don't need a rotating bezel, right? And if you don't need, for example, the GMT functionality, and you don't need the date, okay? This is going to be more legible, more usable watch all the way around, and you're going to save some money. And you can buy it. That's the thing. It's available, right? Okay. Let's see. Spring drives greater than Seiko Auto, 650 greater than GS Quartz, Eco drives. Okay, all right. So Seiko spring drive is beautiful. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Used steel Breitlings are super cheap. I think they're very quality watches in the $1,500 to $2,500 range on the secondhand market. Well, there you go. There's an option. We buy Rolex too. Okay, you didn't finish the sentence. Okay. Cheap. The management team behind BlockFi looks top-notch. Looks like it could be a big winner. As with any new company, it's a wait-and-see approach, but BlockFi meets an increasing consumer need. There you go. R. Wags is chiming in on BlockFi. Good info. Good info on that. The Watch Lounge went to the Zenith even the other day at my ad, and Charlotte got to take apart a movement and put it back together. It was fun. Oh, well, cool, cool. If I had to choose one watch as my only watch forever, it would be an Explorer 39. There you go, Carlos in the house. Explorer 39. That would not be a bad choice, Carlos. You could wear that in any circumstance, dress circumstance, sport, in any circumstance. I agree. We buy Rolex to close deals and get bitches. So Hugo in the house chiming in. Yeah, they like shiny things. The young ladies like shiny things. I would check out the 114-300 with polar dial instead. Okay, 39 mil. In Panama, you can buy that Explorer 39 for less money, new from an AD. They used to have in the case, if not in the case, I assume, in 1 or 2 months. Yeah, the problem is a lot of us have been talking about the Explorer favorably, right? And so I think we've kind of affected the market a little bit. Bark and Jack has been talking about it a lot. A lot of us have been talking about it. So I think that's the reason. Hey, folks, this is a heads up. When we start talking about watches, you better move and get the watch because we might move the market. Okay, so we talked about this one. We talked about the Yachtmaster. I still think that's intriguing. And see, here's the thing. As compared to the 18238, obviously you'd pay a little bit more money for this watch. Like I said, you should be able to buy the 18238 for around $12,000, maybe $13,000 for a real nice one. Here's a mint condition, supposedly Rolex Yachtmaster for 15 grand. So, but the advantage for me for this watch is this one would be more legible. Okay, because of the dial and all, this would be more legible than a day-date. That's the reason I sold my day-date, is it wasn't legible enough for me for my old tired eyes. There wasn't enough contrast between the hands and the dial and the indices. So that was really the main reason why I sold it. So this watch right here might solve that issue. So, okay, let's go to another competitive option. Now, let's say we definitely want to buy new, and we want to stay in the steel realm, right? We've talked about this watch many times, the Yachtmaster 40. And what's neat about this is, yes, you're spending more than $10,000. I see that. It's $11,800. But it has the solid platinum bezel. And if you get the new one, it's got the new movement with the 70-hour power reserve. And it's going to have the solid center links, and it's going to have the new clasp design, and it's got the beautiful case. It doesn't have this ugly super case. So to me, I would much prefer, if I'm going to buy a new, let's say I'm going to buy a new Submariner or a new GMT Master, and I don't really need the GMT Master function, I'm just buying it because I want, a sport watch, right? I would take a real hard look at this watch. That dial is gorgeous. That case is gorgeous. That bezel is gorgeous. And no, it's not a scratch magnet. That is urban myth. Now, the center links on that bracelet that are high polished, they're going to pick up some scratches. But hey, it's a heavy use tool watch. I mean, you can wear that anytime, anywhere, any kind of dress situation you can wear it. It's only 11.7 mils thick. So that is definitely a competitive option. Definitely a competitive option. Okay, let me check the comments here. Meant to type Zenith event. It was 50th anniversary event. Cool. Cool. Okay, let's go and see what else we've got here. Now, of course, this you're going to step up and spend significantly more money. Of course, we've got a day-date 40 with a black dial. So, if you want the ultimate wear anywhere, all the time, heavy use sport watch that can take a beating and can be on your wrist all the time for 40 years, this thing is amazing. Now, you have to be willing to wear a relatively heavy watch because it's got some heft to it because it's a 40 mil version. If you don't want quite as much heft, go down to the 36 mil version. But that is a heavy use watch that's got a beautiful case on it, that stunning President bracelet. It's got the ceramic sleeves in the center links so that they won't wear over time. Not anything like the just gold on gold would. And so just a fantastic, heavy use all-around watch that Dudley bought his new for around $28,500, you know, heavily discounted. So again, you're stepping up in price significantly, but you're getting a amazing piece. And some of these people, that have 3 or 4 of these high-end sport watches, they've got a Daytona, they've got a Batman, they've got a Pepsi. Oh my gosh, if they sold those 3 watches, they could buy the Day-Date 40 and have a bunch of money left over. And they'd have a much better watch, and they could wear it all the time and just enjoy it, just insure it in case anything happens. But you'd even have money left over from selling those 3 watches for a couple years' worth of insurance. My gosh, what are these people thinking? Having 4 or 5 of these high-end steel watches that they paid way too much money for, sitting around. Sell some of them, get yourself something decent, and put it on your wrist. Get those watches out of the safety deposit box. Sell them at the top of the market now before things crash, and buy yourself something nice. Crazy talk today. Crazy talk on the channel. Let's see here. Gold Yachtmaster is gaudy as hell. I think it's gorgeous. I think it looks stunning. Does anyone know how much a spring drive movement costs as compared to the Rolex sub movement as bare bones goes? I know ETA 28242 cost $80 only for the movement. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, since it's proprietary, they don't sell them separate, I don't think. So that would be a good question, how much the movement itself actually costs. Very good question. It would be neat. I don't know how we would know the answer, but it'd be neat. Chip, I think that 18 karat gold Yachtmaster would look fantastic on you. Well, there you go. I tell you, I'm tempted. I'm tempted, R-Wags. I am tempted. For sure. It might be my next watch. It might be. You never know. You never know how things are going to go. Every AD I've been at 4 in the last few months have had a steel Yachtmaster. Cool, yeah. Yep. You're probably talking about the steel with the platinum bezel. Now, see, you got to watch it, though. A lot of those are going to be the previous model with the older movement and everything. So if you want the newer movement and all that, you're going to have to get one of the recent ones. My forever watch still has to be my 18 karat gold Day-Date. I couldn't bring myself to part with it. R-Wax. Well, it's a fantastic watch. It's a beautiful watch, and you had it with you at the little treasure event. It's a stunner. I believe that one has the bark finish. I believe it's the bark finish. Was that 1807? What's the model on that? Put the model in the chat. On that puppy. On that Day-Date. And did you buy it new? What's the history on that watch, if you don't mind sharing, when you got it? Like I said, I'd still have mine, but I'm in denial where I don't wear my reading glasses when I'm out and about. And it just got to where I'd have to look at it like 2 or 3 times and move my hand in and out, sometimes to be able to tell the time, especially if it was in low light. If it was in good, like daylight, I could still read it pretty good, but a lot of the times I was having trouble reading it. And so it got to where I just wasn't wearing the watch very often the last couple years. So for me, the rule is if I'm not wearing a watch, it's got to go. It's got to go now. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to refresh this, make sure I'm not missing any comments, and then we're going to wrap up fairly soon because I have not eaten, and I get irritable when I haven't eaten. I did take a long walk earlier, and I had a couple handfuls of peanuts, Virginia peanuts in the shell, unsalted in the shell, that I walk and I peel them as I walk and eat them. And hey, I throw the shells down on the ground. So there's that. I think I'm caught up on the chat. Okay, let me see if there's anything else we should share. I'll tell you that that is gorgeous. He says it's gaudy, but man, that is pretty gorgeous. Now remember, when you're seeing the macro shots on these watches, that's not necessarily what the watch looks like on wrist, right? I mean, you're not that close to the watch when you're out in public and all, and people are 3 or 4 feet away from you and all. It's not like a macro shot. So you really have to see what the watches look like in normal use, right? And I'll bet you that wouldn't be overly gaudy. I mean, if you're dressed nice otherwise. See, here's the thing. If you're dressed like a bum and you wear a watch like that, then it is going to look out of place, right? But if you're dressed decently, and I'm not saying wearing a suit all the time or whatever, but if you're just wearing a decent polo shirt with, and a decent pair of slacks, like a pair of Bill's khakis, or a real nice pair of shorts and some nice shoes, maybe some high-end boat shoes, handmade, I'm in the U.S., but, high-end handmade boat shoes. If you're dressed decent and all that, and then you're wearing a watch like that, I think it looks fine. It doesn't look out of place. It looks fine. I'm sorry. I'm not going to spend north of $10,000 for a steel freaking watch. Not going to happen on this, on my watch. Okay. So, put anything in the chat, any comments, any last minute things you want to address, because we're going to wrap this puppy up. And stay tuned for another show from Steve on Tuesday, coming up on Tuesday. And we'll take one more look at the, let's see, RWAG says it was a 1807, 1807, I thought it was. Yep. I remember those watches back in the day. I remember those watches. A friend of mine actually had one. I had an 1803 at the time, and he had an 1807. Yep. If one buys a Daytona, are they reliable? If not, how much is it to service a stainless steel Daytona? That's a good question. I would hope they would be pretty reliable, but I'm sure they would be more expensive to service than a regular Rolex. So yeah, it's not going to be cheap if that puppy ever does need servicing. And I would only buy it if you really need that functionality and you think you're going to use it, because otherwise it just makes the dial busy. It's hard to read. It's got extra entry points into the case for other places for water to get in. So I would pass on it unless you think you really need it. Craig, do you walk to town or in the wilderness? Just curious. I walk different places around here. There's different paths and trails and things. And sometimes I walk into town, so I do all of the above. I usually walk about 8 miles a day. It's my average. This time of the year. Or, if I'm not playing much tennis, I try to make up for it by doing more walking. So if I get a good couple hours of tennis in, then I won't walk as much that day. But it just depends on that. That's my minimum exercise, I guess, is what I'm saying, is about 8 miles of walking. Okay. Best steel watch for $3,000 to $5,000. I think you can buy some really nice date justs. Go on Chrono 24. I think you can buy some really nice 36 mil date justs in that price range, and you can't go wrong with a date just. With a 36 mil date just, Rolex date just, you can't go wrong. I would get the newest one you can get in that price range that is in really good condition, preferably one owner with box and papers, if you can do it. If you can swing a one owner with box and papers, that's where I would look in that price range. Now, of course, you can buy any number of Grand Seikos in that price range, if you want to go Grand Seiko. You can even get some spring drives in that price range. Brand new. There's a couple of spring drives you can buy brand new in that price range. What's a good price range for a stainless steel watch? Again, I wouldn't go more than $5,000 or $6,000. Max, personally. The gold Yachtmaster is a monstrosity. I think it's stunning. Okay. Different opinions. My friend wears his yellow gold Yachtmaster informal, very casual attire or swimsuit. Looks great always. There you go. Carlos is an eyewitness. Eyewitness. What's your thoughts on Arnold and Son? Saw a couple the other day and was impressed. Sorry, I just don't know anything about them. Love tennis, best sport ever. There you go. Like A. Lang and Son. Okay. I walk 7 to 9 miles a day for work. Would that cause any issues with a spring drive? Oh, no, it'd be fantastic. Spring drive is robust. Spring drive is a very rugged movement. You're going to be good to go. You can use it under any circumstances. Craig, have a good dinner and evening. I'm going to our neighborhood picnic tonight. Thanks for the broadcast. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and give a thumbs up on the broadcast. There you go, our wags. Always looking out for the channel. Have a great picnic. You're probably there on the lake. Beautiful place. Enjoy. And everybody else, have a great rest of the weekend. I'm going to a car show with a longtime sponsor of Frederick.com. is having their car show tomorrow. Dynamic Automotive. I'm going to that. That'll be fun. So you all enjoy and get out and make things happen. Be in motion. What's your email? I'll shoot you a couple of wrist shots. There you go. My name, CraigShipp@gmail.com. 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 All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this puppy up. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in.